Yeah.
fine.
I mean, no, I'm playing John Constantine in Constantine, which is kind of awesome. I mean, it's a badass character that, yeah, I'm just having so much fun playing. You know?
I play the character of Chaz, which is John's best, oldest and longest surviving friend. He doesn't have much luck with surviving friends, so I guess I'm fortunate in that regard. And he's just a general wingman. He's his best friend. He's his closest thing to a family that he probably has, and that kind of goes both ways. And he's also like a motivator. I mean, John is a bastard, and he's a lazy bastard at that. He doesn't want to fight demons. I mean, he has to, but he's not really stoked on it. And Chaz knows that he's the man for the job, and he keeps him up to task and makes sure that he's, if he's hungover, at least he's fed, and kind of keeps him to task.
Well, she's a sensitive, so basically she feels emotions. It can feel through all of her, senses, and can feel what's going on with another person through an object, through touching them. So basically, if you're hiding a thought and Zed touches you, she knows exactly what you're hiding.
Well, Manny is very interesting. He has powers, he can do things, and there are lots of things that he's restricted from doing, and I think that's part of his frustration. And that's why he's there with Constantine, because Constantine is gonna help him do something, and he's gonna help Constantine do something that he hasn't done so far in the comics. So that's why they created the character, and I'm really excited to be on that journey with them, to push him in this direction that he hadn't been pushed before.
I'd seen the movie, and a friend of mine is a big comic book fan. He's been telling me for years and years and years about John Constantine, and then when he found out that I had the audition, he sat me down. He was like, "Look, it's got to be like this. It's got to be like this." And I was like, "Okay, just let me do the audition." And then when I got it, he's been like sending me references and things and pictures, and it's been a real help, And I think he's going to be my harshest critic anyway. So if I can please him, I think I'll be all right. But yeah, so I'd heard about it, and I read the script, and it was great and stuff, and I did my research, and yeah, from there it was like, it was away.
Well, thank God I signed on. DC Comics gave me a stack.
It was like, here's Hellblazer.
As they should. And like, here you go. Anything you want to read out of DC Comics? I'm like, really? Yes, jackpot.
I don't think anybody could be an advising character to Constantine. You know what I mean? Like, you try to advise him, and then right? Yeah. Then he'd pull some trick or kick you in the nuts or something, throw up on you.
It's great to have all those kinds of things at hand, do you know what I mean? And it's exciting to be able to, see what's going to come at you and explore them. And I mean, just playing the character as well. You've got all this source material. It's like, I've fallen in love with the character in the comics so much. I just want to be as true as possible to that character, And obviously, there's certain elements, like people have been talking about the smoking and stuff, but he's a smoker, That's a fundamental part of his character. He's a smoker. There's certain things we can't show because it's network television, but for me, I'm seeing it as a challenge, and something fun. Like, how can we get it in there, rather than like, oh my God, I can't have a cigarette in every shot. It's like, well, okay, how can we get it in there and make fun of it, rather than it being kind of a negative? Do you know what I mean? So, but there's so many exciting parts of the comics that we're embracing with this and trying to stay true to the source material.
In the comic books, Chaz is a cab driver. Initially, or at least at some point in his story, he does a lot of odd jobs. But again, I think that just goes back to him making sure that, if John needs to get around, he gets around. And in the comic books, one difference from the comic books and the show is that, in the comic books, John takes pains to kind of protect Chaz from the really dangerous stuff, because he knows how it ends for people that go along with him. And he likes having a friend, and in this one, Chaz gets to get his hands dirty because he's got some survival skills, and so yeah, you will see me driving him around, I'm sure, at some points, but I think that we should look at the term driving to go back to just kind of motivating and making sure that he keeps moving.
Well, when something happens to you consistently throughout since you're a teenager and you become an adult, it doesn't become as weird anymore because you become familiarized with it. So it's something that comes second nature. So I think that's what Zed is. It's like, she already knows she's a weirdo. She's not going to talk about it out loud because people are going to look at her and stare at her, So she's like, okay, fine, this is what I deal with. This is who I am. But she doesn't admit it. She doesn't, say it out loud. She doesn't quite know that she has certain things until Constantine comes in and shows her a path, which is pretty amazing.
I'm not doing he's from Liverpool. Now, you can't, I'm not really, I decided that you can't really do a full-on Liverpudlian accent on American television. I mean, well, you'd have to have subtitles. Yeah, exactly. So we've gone for something that is kind of, it's a northern accent that was based in Liverpool. So I kind of worked from there. Now, Liverpool is right next door to Wales, so some of the vowel sounds are kind of similar, but it's not exactly the same. So some people have been mistaking that I'm doing my own accent, but as you can probably hear, it's not actually the accent that I'm doing right now. This is a Welsh accent, and what I'm doing on the show it's a very subtle difference, but there is a different accent there. Yeah, but he's from Liverpool, and then he went to Northampton and then London. So we played with the idea that he's travelled as well, so that his accent isn't as thick as it would be as if he. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, he's got a good game. Constantine has a good game. He's not he doesn't have superpowers, but he can live in this world against demons and angels and, all these fierce things. So he's a really tough character, to crack that nut and get in there. So, but I think Manny's got an idea.
It's really enjoyable. I get to read a lot of comic books. And then I get to do a lot of daydreaming, and then I get to read awesome scripts and work with an awesome cast with Daniel Cerrone and David Goyer at the helm. I mean, it's a very enjoyable process. I think that there's an obligation to the fans. I mean, this is a comic book that's been around for 25 years. I mean, there's fans that aren't even as old as the comic books, and so I think that it's an honor to be in service of a story like that, and comic book fans are like the best fans out there. So they're a good sort of meter, and I think that we'll do them justice. I mean, John's been written by a lot of characters. There's been a lot of iterations of John as he's aged, and I think that this is just a new chapter of kind of a great old character.